or no, good evening, Norman. It has been a long day. How many folks are here for the first time? You weren't here this morning? Okay, and how many of you were at the conference on placemaking? That is very impressive. And I want to say two things. First of all, that conference caught the attention of all of the top speakers on placemaking and changing America and the world. I mean, even London was here for that conference. And what you're doing here now in your community is going to catch the attention of the world. I also want to say I have helped build over 1,000 projects, every size, every scale. To me, this is the most important one of all, largely because it's not only going to change Lindsey, but Norman. It's going to set a bar height for the future of all roads in Oklahoma. And in time, people are going to come here from Texas or Arkansas or anywhere and say, this is what we want to become. I can say that with a certain commitment and awareness. When we rebuilt a particular street in Washington State, we thought, yeah, it'll be interesting regionally, but now all of Oregon and all of Washington go to see the rebuild of that street. And that's the potential of Lindsey. It won't be easy. It can be delivered on time, but it's going to take an incredible amount of collaboration. And that's what I think I'm reading in all of the meetings that we've had a chance. But I want to present to you the significance of that. So for those of you who were here this morning, there's going to be a little redundancy. There just has to be. But I'm going to try and get beyond that and tell brand new stories. Is that okay? I love to tell stories. Okay. So let's start by pretending that the gentleman standing here perceives the world he wants, he sees in the other four panels. But I'm here to say that gentleman is standing in La La Land. That's Disney World. That world changed and became this. People sitting in cars longer than they'd like to, finding out our infrastructure is worn out and we're not replacing it, that we've got a lot of endless material out there that's not something we want to write home about, and that as we age we realize we didn't build the infrastructure to allow us to stay healthy, and now we want it. So what I'd like to do is start with another university campus. This is Florida State University, Tallahassee, Florida. You can see the road was built for one major purpose: to shove as much traffic out of the downtown as quickly as possible at 5 o'clock. It's another area that depends on that. And the economy depended on that for a while, but it kept happening and happening. And sadly, another student loses their life every year within range of this camera because it was only designed for one purpose. And so we'd like to say that when you see somewhere where you would not expect traffic congestion, it's a wake-up call. This happens to be Maui. And if you're trying to go down this street, it's a principal street in Maui, you're going to be stuck here for 20 minutes every morning and every afternoon during high school release, because we didn't think of the whole systems. Part of what we're going to share with you today is a systems approach to solving the problems. But I want to talk about the fact that even though we will continue to pump oil out of the ground and fuel our machines, and they will deliver freedom, mobility, all the things that they do, the reality is a little different. They don't always deliver. They come with some problems, and no one knows better than that the people who see the breakdowns on a regular basis and so on. So it started a while back. About 30 years ago, people began to realize they really could live healthier, better lives in cities as opposed to driving out of cities on a regular basis. And it's absolutely true. People who live in Portland or Seattle or San Diego or a number of cities that are well evolved and developed are finding their health is improving, and their cost of living is affordable. So I'll start by introducing you just a few of the streets I've helped influence. This is in San Diego. When the pedestrian comes and crosses the street, it shuts down the cycle while the pedestrian crosses 78 feet. Today, when the pedestrian comes, it doesn't shut down any cycle because there is no cycle. They are standing in position, the motors can see them, the motors are coming in so slow that they do yield. This street is one of the best remade boulevards in all of America, and Lindsey Street could be better than this one. That's going to require some new tools and some new insights that I'll show you how that works and why it works. You have several choices on how Lindsey evolves and what character it takes on. This is another choice. It could be 5 lanes. That's already being offered as an option. And as 5 lanes allow easy access in and out of all driveways, that is also offered. But this too would force shutting down the traffic to get people across the street. It would require a number of other treatments. So we're working with Sacramento for this street to have multiple lanes, but multiple lanes that perform better. So this is an option. So there's a third option. And all these are possible. What you choose is something you will work out. I only bring the possibilities to you. You work out the actual details. Now let's go back to some roads that we've helped influence and change. I was fortunate to come into this town. It's a university place is its name. It has no university. It has no place. But it has a street. This is a very important regional trunk road. It goes across the Narrows Bridge, very famous bridge in Washington State. But this road, like Lindsey, has a very high crash rate. And I think you can see why. All the open turns and everything. It actually has quite a number of driveways, although that's history now. They've transformed. And this corner here, begging to be a Trader Joe's. And wind the clock 1 year further, and you'll see everything is now set, and about a year later Trader Joe's came. They would not have come had the road been ugly. They would not have come had the road not been safe. They would have chosen among dozens of other roads that they could have gone to. So now they still don't have a university, but they're getting place. And with place, in time, they get more and more of what they see. Point the camera the other direction. This was just after construction. And 9 years later, that road looks like this. So in my vision, Lindsey could become one of the greenest, most beautiful of all streets. This one did. And it's moving traffic better. It's also dropped the crashes 78% for personal injury crashes, and even more so for non-injury crashes. And it set the stage for new development to come in. You can see it from grade. This road, by the way, broke a lot of rules. It, first of all, took out the access, direct access into people's driveways. And here's the cool thing. The city checked the tax records. The businesses, once this was completed, started making 30% more money. So it broke some mythologies about access and the importance of having direct access into every driveway and direct access out of every driveway. That's not what motorists are looking for. They're looking for safety, they're looking for beauty, and they're looking for businesses. And they want those businesses to be accessible, but it doesn't have to be an immediate direct left turn. We're proving this every road we're building, and building in medium control access. But it also set the stage for more. And this is an incredible possibility that Lindsey offers. They not only have the main road, Bridgeport, and I think you can see all of the strip style development along it, and no town center, but with their planning and by working together and collaborating, it's now going to have another road, which you see here, and another road, which you see here, and takes pressure off of Bridgeport, and the new town center will emerge here. And they've already built this feature. This is a roundabout to get traffic to move in other directions. It takes pressure off of the main intersections, and you can see how they're planning to put together their buildings. And this is really important because the state of Washington, there are no taxes derived from property values. In fact, I think that's the case here. What the city needs is tax revenues off of retail sales. And now, they'll get it. They're already in construction, and you can see they've already changed the road yet again. This is going to be head-out angled parking. They are building a brand new library and city hall, and movie theaters are being built, underground parking, all of this from a script. And all this had to start from the street. You cannot get that kind of development until you're willing to transform your street into something for the future. By the way, they started with 11-foot lanes. It was what was required by the Federal Highway Administration, they said. But as soon as the check got signed, the lanes narrowed down to 10, which are a little safer. They don't eat up as much space. And so they proved a lot of things as they went forward. They put in a lot of pedestrian crossings so people had access to the shopping on both sides. And they're using new tools. So these are just an example of the kinds of tools you need for people to be able to get from one side of the street to another if you use multiple lanes. Another street that's been in transition in West Sacramento, this went from, I'm told, 6 or even 7 lanes down to 4. And now they're seeing brand new buildings come to the street, and this is really going to be the most successful part of all of West Sacramento and something regionally significant throughout the entire greater Sacramento area. Jumping around on you just a little bit, getting back to the University Place, I think you can see how they've mounded their median a little bit, so you don't have to look at all the asphalt. They're doing good ground cover, getting good treatments in, and really getting in a lot of operations. I want to back up just a little to tell you a personal story. At the age of 21, I was influenced heavily by reading John Steinbeck's last writing, Travels with Charlie. At the time he wrote it, he traveled across America with his pet poodle, Charlie, to rediscover his country. And he's very proud of being an American. He'd been living overseas for a while. And I read that book at the age of 21, and toward the end of that chapter, I read something that has stayed with me forever. America, he discovered, is out of sync with its values. We say we're for safety or children or green or whatever we say we're for, and then we spend our money on something else. And so that influenced me. I became a traveler at that age. And this is the way I like to share that story. This is a resort town. It's North Lake Tahoe. If you're sitting in any one of those cars and look to the right, what you will see is this. We drive almost every day, and that's always out in front of us as we travel, and yet we fail to see it. We are not building roads that are designed for all uses, all people, all the time. And it's important that we discover what it is that we're overlooking as we go forward. And so for me, did I just misspell Lindsey? Now I'm confused. How do you spell Lindsey?
E-Y.
What the heck? I'm going to blame the computer. It's misbehaving. So I want to share with you that when we spend transportation dollars in the future, we need to be spending the money in a way that it increases land value all the time. And ideally maximizes the increase of land value, never decreasing land value. And so that's the principle I want us to follow. But I also want to say that it takes a lot of knowledge, it takes a lot of people who become informed, who advance the sciences, and move us to a new place. And that's why I feel so good about your placemaking conference that occurred this spring. It was powerful, off the charts. And many of you were there, and know why I get excited about that. But I also want to get away from science. Universities are great, but they don't teach everything we need to know. Who designed, laid out, and built Key West? Pirates. On average. How many years of design school did they go to? That's my point. What they had was common sense. The area of Key West they built, 20% of the landmass, makes 80% of the money. It's why people are willing to sit in a car for hours leaving Miami to get down to Key West, because of what the pirates built without any technical knowledge at all, just using common sense. Now I'll show you the rest of Key West. Looks like this. I'm going to use a scientific word here. It sucks. It does. This is a 5-lane road. I personally dislike 5-lane roads for quite a number of reasons, and but the point is, the street doesn't drain. Oh, just Lindsey. The seawall has not been maintained since Hemingway once walked there. What are you going to do when you get off of this bus? Best bet, swim to Cuba. And what does this arrow mean? This was not built with common sense. It was built with standards. And when folks explain to me, we have to do it because that's the way the rules are, I say, no, you don't. You have to use common sense. Rules are made to be flexed or broken or altered or changed, and it's groups of people that do that. And stop putting arrows that tell people to go the wrong way. 6 of the best economists in America came together to write this book. You can get it perhaps from Amazon. The Michigan Municipal League paid for the book to be created. I got to be one of the writers. What they're basically saying in Michigan, and they're totally correct on this, is the future economy is going to be based on placemaking. And it really will. The agriculture era is pretty well ended. The industrial era is changing and will no longer be the big driver. Placemaking will attract the creative people. They'll bring in the rest of the need for workers, service industry, and so on. That is the future economy, certainly, of a college town, and most likely of even bigger cities like Oklahoma, despite the other things that will drive that economy. And it's also, by the way, placemaking is not a new art. It's one that we respected throughout the history of America. And it's really just getting back to where we honor, hold respect for our built environment. And now I get to share another story. Can everyone here pretend it's the 1400s? Can you do that? Okay. 1400s. Is this the correct view of our solar system? Is it? It's the 1400s. Everything revolves around Earth, right? I'm right, aren't I, folks? It's the 1400s. Sure. So along comes Copernicus, Galileo, high-order mathematics, and they say this is the only way the solar system could be. And they were truly led through the torture chambers and told to clean up their act. They were. I'm going to propose something more preposterous. What if this isn't true? What if it's folly? And if it is, then we need something that is true. That anything we design around the human being maximizes health, the sustainability of our planet, and the best possible outcomes for our economy. It's a different way of looking at the world, and I can prove it by showing 2 towns. Which town would you rather live in, by the way, or even visit? This is now the fattest city in the world. More obesity here than any other big city. They had too much land, they had too much money, and they had too little common sense. This town, Guanajuato, Mexico, didn't have a lot of money, so they couldn't afford to tear down their buildings, which is good. And instead, they needed to move traffic. So they used their brains, and they essentially sent the traffic underneath their town through their old silver mines. That's recycling, right? And so it's one of the greatest towns to go and visit and to enjoy, because they did take out their town. So I think it's important for us to understand where we're sitting here. What we see really is a celebration of some of the best of America. I certainly remember these years, but it also, once it started to erode, age, and keep in mind it was only meant to last 15 years, it's hard to get another use into these buildings. It's hard to get a full remake to freshen it to a point where people actually want to go there, and so on. So the idea of sprawl, of outward growth, unlimited outward growth, finally led to what we see here. This is Las Vegas. There's absolutely nothing you could walk to, bike to, or even without a long visit in your car, drive to. It's packed with houses and total dependency on your car. I will now want to go to show you an incredible success story. I was asked to come in and work with Sammamish, Washington, and this is the road that resulted from this weekend of people coming, caring, sharing, working out partnerships. And the county, Kane County, near Seattle, said to the city council leaders and the city manager, it's going to take you 10 years to get this through the permit process. The county has all the right talent and energy, and it takes us 10 years. You will not get this done in less than 10 years. The city manager had the bulldozers moving in 300 days because he had the people, because he had the collaboration, and he had the vision to get people there. So 10 years earlier, the project gets built. He probably, during that era that was taking place, cut the cost of the project in half, what it would have been 10 years later. Think about that. Think about the fact you already got the bonding, and you're ready to go forward with the project. With incredible collaboration, you can bring it off, and you can save a huge amount of money and deliver the products and the growth that Lindsey really wants and needs. And by the way, this city manager not only got great product on the ground, he has, during the recession, been the only city in America that has been able to put $150 billion in their capital budget because of the management and so on. This is an important thing for us to learn from. How are we doing things, saving money, and getting things built, and now making money because we're doing it the right way? So I take you now back to San Diego, to La Jolla Boulevard, about 10 years ago. And this is the way it looked. This is the way it looks today. Another section. This is the way it looked. And this is the way it looks today. It's a 2.5 mile section. We took out every traffic signal. We put in roundabouts. We got the speeds that had been doing 40, 50 miles an hour and then stop. 40, 50 miles an hour and stop through the corridor. And now people go 19 when they get home 7. The stores are thriving. 30% more money being made. 10, 20 times more walking and bicycling. Home values anywhere near the street have gone way up in value. The noise levels came down 77%. The pollution came down. The safety record is outstanding. And we're moving all the traffic we did before, 23,000 cars a day. That's huge. This is the man who did it. He was a city council member, also the president of the city council for San Diego. He's now in Congress, and he sits on the Public Works committee, Scott Peters. And he basically did it because he was listening to the retail owners. He was listening to the people who were saying, we need a better street, but we need to come together in order to pull it off. They now have new stores of all size and description, including brand new stores that are very sought after stores, druggists and so on. But many people now walking, biking, not having to wait for signals simply because the system now works for them. But they had to use some new tools, and this is what we offered to them. For example, if you're going to run 23,000 cars and you want parking on the street, you cannot allow those cars to back into your travel lane. It would cause everything to fail. So we created a new concept. It's called the transition lane. And just this little tweaking of an idea, they are now moving 23,000 cars a day and getting the retail sales to boot. So I want to take it to another level and maybe explain why I'm addressing, before we show you the design solutions, talk about why I think it's important to convey the desire to sail rather than teach you each individually how to shape wood and do things like that. It's just absolutely true. Once you're in love with place, once you're in love with making money, walking, biking, all the associated benefits, then you'll find out how to do it. And you really will. So, switch to another story. This is human happiness in the United States. This is the growth of our gross national product since 1940. Why is one not growing one iota? And by the way, do you see there was peak happiness? And it happened in the 60s? We don't know why. But I am a child of the 60s, and I know why. This is what it looked like. That's Bryant Park. But we made a few little changes. I mean little changes to Bryant Park, and this is Bryant Park today. It is now the front porch of America. It sits right behind the great university, and today it's populated with people from all over the great city, the great state, and so on. It's all about design. You get the design right, the people come. And now I'll share another true story. A great friend of mine, Linda Polanski, bought this entire block, 40 retail shops and a hotel, with $150,000 down. That was it. She partnered with the person across the street, and it became this. Now she's worth $15 million. So she buys the next block. And again, partners, and the city fixes the street, and now she's worth $30 million. She buys the next block. Do you see where I'm going with this? My friend Linda, with a $150,000 investment, building place, retired with $45 million. And it's also part of the story of the reinvention of South Beach. Somebody had to take the risk to do something different, and Linda was one of many who did, but she was one of the earliest of all pioneers. But it's important, I don't know why that got in there a second time, to understand that as we reinvent America, it's going to be worth a lot more. That as we fix streets and shape new buildings and figure out what uses we want for an area, that the land value is going to go up a lot. And our need to get into a car to go somewhere else is going to go down a lot. So now, and I think many of you heard the story. How many of you have not heard the story you're about to hear? Okay, so then I'll tell it. You give me permission to tell it. So the rest of you have heard the story. And tell me if I get it right. This is a town I worked in about 2 years ago, Alabama. Roads owned by Alabama DOT. And in this case, we did a walking audit, really got into it. And this does look a lot like Lindsey today, doesn't it? I mean, it really does. And so they said, Dan, here's where we want a village. We have a lot of homes near here. We want to be able to walk in, shop, get transit, do all the things we want. I said, great, this is a good spot for it. Later that afternoon, I found out they were about to transform that street into this street. And I did this little photomorph so I could show it to an audience in the evening. And I kid you not, a few minutes later, Kit, traffic engineer, starts to cry. And I had never seen a traffic engineer cry. So I said to Kit, why are you crying? He said, Dan, we're at 90% plans completion. I said, so? She said, Dan, 90% plans completion. We spent a lot of money getting to where we are. And I said, so? And then there was a pause, and Kit turned to me and said, can we save it? And I said, Kit, I give you permission. She went to the Alabama DOT with both towns collaborating. Alabama DOT, seeing a chance to have more money, said yes. And that area will become this. And it will add value to every home within a walking range. It really will. And so that's what's underway in Gulf Shores. But I also want to share that this is a story that can be repeated almost anywhere in the nation. This road does an okay job of moving traffic. It's got 4 lanes, but there's no place here. There are no stores here. You can't walk here comfortably, bike, or do anything. So we start with the fabric. We get the geometry right. We green it, significantly green it, and make all the other necessary changes, and then the buildings want to join this street. And that is really what we're talking about. Mayor Nancy Graham, mayor of West Palm Beach, around 1992, called together a shred. I got to be part of that team. At the time, you can see they were just using streets for parking semis on. This is true throughout all of downtown. The people would rush home right away, get out of town before the light faded. And so we worked together, we came up with a plan, and 6 years later, that area became this. This is not a photomorph, this is an actual photo of what the town became. It was a partnership, but one developer alone, seeing how serious the city was, provided $1.3 billion. It's called City Place, and it is absolutely thriving under the next economy. But one of the secrets, as we revamped West Palm Beach, was we took out 17 travel lanes. So imagine this, you're basically a dead city. People are only using the streets to rush home at night or to come back into work in the morning, and we're taking out 17 travel lanes. The traffic engineers in Florida, knowing what was about to happen, said, that's a disaster. You will fail. Just the opposite happened. People came, they invested, they want to live there, they want to walk there, shop there, do everything there. We have to stop worrying about traffic and start dealing with the real science behind traffic and build place. This used to be 3 lanes. We took it down to 2. By taking it down to 2, narrowing down the travel lanes to 10 feet. Pedestrian goes to cross the street, they need a very short cycle. We award more green time to the through motor. It's such simple logic. Now, to do it, and this is really probably my key point tonight, to have La Jolla Boulevard, to have a West Palm Beach, to have a new Lindsey, requires this. It's getting all of the right, what we'll call the ground cover you need, so that your elected leaders and your senior staff aren't putting their jobs or their careers online. And that's why we're also reinventing public process, and why I'm delighted that as many of you are here tonight as have come. And that's how we reinvented La Jolla Boulevard. We got the people to come, we got that thought vision, what we like to call informed consent. Not a few people who are just working from a mythology, but people who come and learn how things work and then back their leaders and make sure things come to fruition. So with all of your canvas, I like to say this is the ultimate gateway coming off of the freeway and so on. Well, the question is, will some of the tools you're about to see work? They will. 4 minutes before we started, my engineer finally sent his drawings. He's been working on them for the last 24 hours, almost non-stop. So you'll see them delivered charrette style in just a few minutes. Again, ASH, which is on the campus, right? ASP. There is no, boy, my spelling. I need a spell checker. Okay, ASP, okay. This is ASP though, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is part of the solution. Even though it's not part of the project, it's part of the solution. And you see that in a minute, coming off of the freeway, obviously, McGee, and I want to say Jenkins, okay. These are all part of the solution, and that's why I was so pleased with the President's awareness of how important having all the players line up to work on Lindsey is going to be important. You cannot just fix part of it, you've got to fix all of it in order to have everything work well. And this is just really basic. Lindsey is kind of a mix, but mostly it's this today. It could be this, and less car dependent, and this is why. When you look at it at grade, you cannot be in love with Lindsey, even with a remake, even with a touch-up. It's not going to be that pretty of a picture. You've really got to go to long-term. And this doesn't happen overnight, but you got to set the stage for it to where you can have the buildings address the street to give you that true profile. Now, so the idea is that we're now going to be looking at the holistic use of streets, complete the streets, green the streets, and through this process, there we go. Right? Right. And these will be your out products. You will increase the land values. You'll have more money, therefore, for maintenance. You'll create the model gateway and placemaking. You'll reduce vehicle miles traveled and reduce crashes. All these things, and drain the streets. So all of those things. So next point or principle is every good traffic engineer, transportation planner learns that you better have a good beaker to measure how well your traffic is flowing. If you don't, the mayor, city council, and the traffic engineers will get a lot of phone calls. It's just true. But we now need to focus on the other beaker that we have not been measuring, and that's quality of life. It's livability. And that's what we're talking about, I'm sorry. And how we picture that will change by region. But the secret to that truly is born in our democracy. Informed public that works together and doesn't just come and scream and shout. And so, seriously, this is the big part of what we need to do, is to get that public process going. So I'll tell a few more stories. Nina Slosberg, who used to be, still is, a documentary film producer, wanted to fix the street in front of North Carolina State. It's a very important campus. Students were being killed there, higher rate than any other street in the entire state. She put on an event, a charrette, we led it, and the net result is it's now become one of the safest streets in the nation, and it's bringing in, I think at last count, over $250 million of new buildings. It's obviously a marvelous treat for the students, for the faculty, staff, and so on, but it's added value to the neighborhoods. And today, Nina is, as a result of that work, not only considered a very important person on the state transportation board, but she is truly the person, anyone who runs to run for political office comes to Nina first. They say, Nina, here's why I'd like to run. She says, okay, your values, your destination is well-founded. I'll back you, and I'll find the right people to get you elected. Now, here's why today we need strong leaders to make this work. If we built the walking infrastructure like this, how many people would walk? Not many, right? With good engineering, and in this case, more collaboration and getting it right and not having people argue, then we can walk. And I just like to show that before I start to explain your infrastructure in terms of your street structure. And now talk about some of the critical parts. I always measure a street from the edges inward, not from the center outward. And this is why. This is a road project we're working on right now. It's Woodward Avenue in Michigan. The Dream Cruise, probably one of the top 5 streets in the world for its notoriety, and yet you can see it's not working. So we start by helping people figure out what's a good edge. Where do you put the plants? How do you create a buffer to the moving traffic? And by the way, that road carries 8 lanes. At this point, it's having to carry 80,000 cars a day. And so we start with the edge, get that done well as the center, and then the investments will come. And it's the combination of the land use and the engineering and architectural design that brings it all together. What if, though, we go and change our focus? Are we going to see that we're going out of sync with where people want to be? This is a very important chart. It measures annual vehicle miles traveled in our nation in the mega billions. You can see it's in the trillions. And so this is the way we were growing traffic, starting to measure somewhere around 1985. It's almost a pure 45-degree angle. The population growth of our nation at the time grew something like this. We were outpacing our population growth by a factor of 5. It's not sustainable. And I think you can see something changed. It happened somewhere around 2003. We can break it down further. There you see it really start to take the dive. And that was what I'll now refer to as peak VMT. When it was coming, I told people it's coming. I couldn't get a single planner or engineer to agree with me, but I could see the signs. It was coming. And now we know, because we've got the data, the pre-trend, then the trend starting in 1987, and then picking up in 2004, and since 2007, and here's where our youth, the next generation, are preferring. And so we know that growing our VMT and trying to induce that growth is not taking us where we want. So things change in any technology. This is the way we used to write. Now we write like this. That's going to continue. We don't even know where this is going to go. Maybe we'll do that, who knows. But the point is, the world is changing, and this is changing. This is the way I grew up when I was a kid, and this is the way the current generation is, and we'll see what the next generation does. I don't know. But we're going to see more and more people want place, want to not have to get in a car and go somewhere to do something they wish to do. And if that weren't important, this is. We can no longer afford to spend as much money as we've been spending on transportation. So in the last 20 years, when we had buku bucks and lots of land yet to develop, those 20 years, we could only add 2% to our road stock. That was it. And yet at that time, you can see how much faster, 5 times faster, the population was growing than, or traffic was growing than population. So this morning and earlier this afternoon, a number of people came together. We got an opportunity to present, and that time the computer was working. And here's what we're going to propose. Fabian has been working in the background. Is Fabian here, or is he out still trying to? Oh, he had to catch his flag. Okay, well, we'll thank Fabian. But Fabian laid out, first of all, this map, and shows what your residential, commercial, parks, university districts are. That's all pretty simple stuff. And then created for us an X-ray. So we take away all the actual map details of place, and you can see the study area, and with the freeway and so on, and current conditions. Basically, this is what you have. And then I want to insert this, that down at the university, you have really good internal circulation, but out in this area, you've got very poor circulation because we changed the land use codes and what got built. Over time, we'll go back to this. We can repair some of this, but we cannot repair all of it. So I'm about to show you, some can be repaired, but not all. So we go back to the existing network, and we take away those streets that don't connect. So I think you can see the importance of Lindsey. It's a very important street. And then take the area that we see as our influence area, a whole series of what we call super blocks, and poor connectivity. And then we can add the details to it so you can see it and understand now how we might be able to take and transform all of this into something else. So we look at the greater circulation area. Highway 9 is a very important route for getting people to the freeway and so on. But what Fabian was able to do is, first of all, give us the numbers, the traffic numbers. These are real numbers. They've been declining, by the way, marginally, but they've been declining for the last 12 years. And part of that is the buildings really are no longer the great attractions. You're reducing growth in other areas, and the desire or the need to be here is going to require more than a facelift. But it doesn't mean you're going to have more traffic for some of the reasons we're discussing. So all of these become very important feeders to get people through the corridor. And this goes all the way down to Jenkins. It certainly includes Chautauqua. And these are the key points to make this whole system work. To help distribute traffic, get people to where they'd want to be, and lighten the load on Lindsey as we go forward. A few illustrative examples. This is somewhere else, happens to be in Orlando. Anyone who wants to make a journey goes from there to here, let's say, has to go through 3 very significant intersections. And depending on the time of day, that could take over half an hour. So we use land use now to take and lighten that. And this is the importance of connectivity. We can no longer just pour more money into one road and have it do anything more than lead us to another point of congestion. And so we're saying, let's take a look at the entire greater developed area of Lindsey and see what we can do to make it all a greater success. So the value of Fabian's drawings becomes incredible. Now let me show you that with one intersection. This is another college. It's Chico State and University. And this is what's the problem right here. And so as we look to solve that, and by the way, that's 6 hours of stacking the traffic a day while college is in season, and a 1.5 mile long backup. So the state comes along and says, well, we can solve that problem. We'll buy the right of way and build a 5-lane road. And to buy the land, $300 million. That's without doing anything in construction. So that money doesn't really exist, and no one's willing to pay that kind of money. And so then they say, well, we can do a flyover. We can do that for $70 million. And that would devalue the land, and nobody would support that. So we came in, worked with the community, and said, you don't need to widen the road. You need more connectivity. by putting in the connectivity, and in this case, taking out the traffic signals, you will now be able to build a village and make money rather than spend money. And it's a pretty simple concept. So now let me show you some of the possibilities. I'm going to start with 4-lane roads or multiple lane roads. Every one of these roads is now celebrated in America, but every one of them breaks rules. For example, these are all 10-foot lanes, and these are 10-foot lanes. And this median denies any crossovers and so on, same with this one and so on. So I'm just going to go through a fairly quick little play of before and after. This one's now been built. We take away lanes, but we make the road so much more efficient that it does a better job of getting people. Let me get past this. I want to talk a little bit about gateways. And that's truly what Lindsey is. And how good of a gateway you can decide, and how good of a gateway you want to be, you can decide. So, in the Panhandle of Florida, it is a very authentic gateway. Here, somebody else's gateway into a little town in Vermont. And so we came in, we worked with them. They said, we want traffic to move slower on the other side of this bridge. And we said, okay, then this is the right place for your gateway, and offered this concept to them. It helps set the character, the speed, everything. Another gateway, and you have this already funded, I believe. The bridge just beyond Barry, just a little to the east of Barry, right? Could become a true gateway into the whole campus area. Brattleboro, Vermont, gateway. And again, these are renderings. These don't exist yet. We'll be able to do one for Lindsey based on input and so on. So, wondering if this is a good time to get into discussions. Have we seen enough that we can talk about what the possibilities are? I can, as soon as we figure out, did we find out how to get Michael's drawings downloaded? Was Fabian able to do that? They weren't downloading, so we're stuck. We're going to have to show them in print.
Wherever he left off.
Okay. Let me see if I can do it on the computer. Can everybody see that all right? Now this is a different concept. Rather than widen the entire road, you improve the intersections. These are roundabouts. Nothing to be afraid of, but different. And I'll share with you why you should not be afraid of it. And this is all conceptual. It's not necessarily meant to be. It's only to share with you that there are many other tools to not just simply widen your road and continue that path. Ideally, you would put a roundabout on either end of the freeway. They've done this in Aspen, and they've eliminated 6-mile backups getting into the ski country. Roundabouts speed up traffic, spew it out on the other side. They eliminate about 90% of crashes. 24th would be your only big roundabout, and it's borderline whether you need it this big or not, but Mike was able to show how it would fit inside your current lane. You get to Murphy, and I noticed that there are ways to turn around and come back to driveways. The idea would be a fairly continuous median. I think I can drag that and take you through the corridor. Down to McGee, right? Yes. And all the rest of them would be singles. Singles are pretty darn simple. Wiley, you can see all the driveways. And then all the way down to Barry. Now, match this to what Fabian was able to do with the connectivity. I think you can now lighten the load, do a better distribution. People can get out of the game and have many ways to get further out and so on. But all of these would be single lane roundabouts, and again, help people make their turns, come around, go in wherever they want, and then over time, evolve a couple of catalyst areas that want to become true villages, that really allow people to not have to travel far and get a lot of the services they like and things like that. So, come on. So let me start with a fairly simple roundabout. This one is the one built for the University of North Carolina State, I'm sorry. And it's on campus, and I believe it may be this one here, campus buildings and so on. This moves about 30% more traffic, eliminates about 90% of crashes. You could do this on all your key streets on Lindsey and keep the road down to 2 lanes. Not take any more right-of-way, and really allow the support. But notice this handles even big semi-tractor trailers. The expanded concept is that if you put them in a series, you can have continuous medians. You can also have parking and so on. And now your built form, you're coming this way, you're either going to find a parking space here and find it real easy to get across the street, or you see one over here, so you go around the nearest roundabout and pull in. Very powerful when these are done in strings, and very good for rebuilding. Again, they handle all size vehicles. They bring all speed vehicles down to about 15 miles an hour, 18, 19. You can see the ones again on North Carolina State. When we do them in strings, we can do them as singles or doubles. This one required doubles, although you're going to see some singles. This is Golden, Colorado. A string of, I think, 4 roundabouts there. Built during the 1989 recession. This is the only road in the entire state of North Carolina where the businesses started to make more money than they had before. All the other roads throughout all of North Carolina, all Colorado, were losing money while this one was making money, and they attributed to the increased access for businesses through the roundabouts. You can see one of them here. This is a single, and so just a little explanation of roundabouts. My first roundabout I got built in 1994. It's in Florida. This is the site. You can see we did this on very narrow space. Here it is from the air. You can see it's fairly tight. And we didn't have a lot of other space we could use. And so we worked it out. And here it is before. And 16 years later, you can see it in its finished out form. 17 years now have gone by, no recorded crash at all. It's moving 18, 19, 20,000 cars a day. Now this is smaller than you need. You'd probably go to a slightly larger size, but I want you to see by scale how well it fit in and how we were able to get it to work. Does that make sense? This roadway was fully transformed. We took out 4 signals, put in roundabouts, and the net result is that everybody gets to where they want to be in less time. So no traffic signals in Hamburg, New York. We took them out, and until you get to one big one. This is a brand new building, and notice the pedestrian. Fairly simple crossing for a pedestrian. She looks in the direction the traffic will come from and steps out when there's a good gap, crosses. Notice this motorist is already waiting, no place to go to anyway. And notice that not a single car was held back. If you had signals there, one time you did, you have to cycle all the pedestrians across and all the cars and so on. And now they're flowing their traffic better. And the really cool thing, this is a state trunk road for trucks, and they're moving the traffic better. This is now one of the second highest award, or let's just say it's voted the second best road project in all of America by the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, and it broke every rule. we take a look at Davidson, North Carolina. We have the freeway here, and now a series of roundabouts. This is a brand new, just completed hotel, a Hampton Inn. Next photo you see was taken from that window there. Roundabout here, and look at all the growth that's coming to the roundabout. You see it up closer, and all the development underway. This is basically it. This is a 2-lane roundabout. You would not need this anywhere other than 24th. And traffic flows well, and now lots of growth occurring to allow that to work. So with that, can we go ahead and get the lights? Is that okay? And I'd like to now entertain questions.
I think you got the light.